So the next area is concerning domestic divorce. So these are the facts that we have. We've got Li Wei and Yin. They're both Chinese citizens, domiciled and resident in China. Again, based on the previous facts that we had, they have a son, Tao, in Singapore, and a daughter, Wen Ling, living in the US. And they have the assets that we stated before as well. So these are all the same as before, both in China, the assets held by the trust in Hong Kong, and also the assets in the US. So in a divorce situation, we have here Li Wei and Yin deciding that they will get divorced. So the first question we have is, what is the basis on which a Chinese court would exercise jurisdiction regarding the divorce? Secondly, would a Chinese court seek to redistribute or alter the community property rights? And then would a Chinese court follow and enforce the terms of a pre or post-nuptial agreement? So I'll hand over to you, Frank.
All right. So for the basis on which China court will exercise jurisdiction to grant divorce, there are many factors that can be used for allowing such kind of jurisdiction. For instance, if they are both PRC citizens, if one party is a PRC citizen, or if one party is domiciled in China. So those can be all factors that are used, that can be used in for enabling or allowing court jurisdiction in China. The second question is, would a China court seek to redistribute or alter community property rights? If both couple, they are PRC nationals, so then it's unlikely that they will change. They will not alter the community property rights, unless both parties have been domiciled outside of China. And then in such case, the court might decide to use either the law that chosen by agreement by both by both parties, or if they do not agree to choose a particular law to govern, then the law of domicile will apply. Then we will look at the governing law to decide whether the community property rights will be altered. And number three, would a China court follow and enforce the terms of nuptial agreement? Yeah, it has been covered earlier. Generally speaking, the China court, as long as it's binding, it's effective, they will follow and enforce the terms of a nuptial agreement.
Thank you, Frank.
Mm-hmm.
And some more questions. Would a Chinese divorce court seek to make an order terminating the Hong Kong Trust, whether the Hong Kong law provides any firewall defense? And would a Chinese divorce court seek to make an order against the trust's indirect shares in the Chinese trading company?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the first question, would a China divorce court seek to make an order varying or terminating the Hong Kong Trust? It's unlikely. As I said before, the PRC court, they will not usually make any ruling over assets outside of China. So they will very unlikely to seek to make an order trying to invalidate a Hong Kong trust. So you basically, if you want to challenge or invalidate a Hong Kong trust, then you will have to go to a Hong Kong court rather than.
I would agree with that, Frank. I think that would be a case of the couple who's trying to claim an interest or claw back a share from the trust they would need to do that in a Hong Kong court under Hong Kong's jurisdiction. I quite agree with that.
From the Hong Kong perspective, there's no express firewall protection against a divorce court order in that sense, if it were a discretionary order being made. But in the same way, it would have to rely very heavily on Hong Kong courts exercising comity to actually allow for a trust to be varied in that way. And I think a case would be maybe the behavior of one of the spouses in creating the trust was deliberately to frustrate the China divorce court. That might be an instance in which a Hong Kong court may look sympathetically at a claim across, but there's no express provision in the Hong Kong trustee ordinance to protect against a foreign court order seeking to vary a trust. But that doesn't mean necessarily that they would naturally follow that court order. It would be down to a matter of comity in the relevant proceedings.
Yeah, I agree with that comment, Zach. I think in fact, I doubt whether there are many trust jurisdictions that actually specifically or expressly say that they will not recognise any overseas matrimonial claims. My understanding, to my knowledge, is that the only jurisdiction that does do that is in Samoa, under Samoan trust law. The statutes expressly state that a Samoan trust will not recognise any foreign matrimonial claim. But apart from Samoa, I don't believe that there are any other jurisdictions that have
the general one. It's the distinction between the community property, which is proprietary, and then these discretionary court orders varying the rights. And I think it's this discretionary. You'll look at jurisdictions like Jersey and Guernsey, where they've been pretty heavily beat up by the UK family courts in trying to vary and make their trusts shams, etc. There they have very, very strong protections against those sorts of orders, but they're not community-based orders. They're mostly against discretionary orders being made by the family division. So that's mostly where the protection is. And that's in Hong Kong, we haven't enacted that type of protection that you'd see in places like Gibraltar, for instance, as a modernized.
Yes, and I don't believe that there's been any test cases so far.
Yeah.
So it's still a very grey area at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shall we? So I think we've covered those first two questions. So Frank, would you like to talk about the third question?
Yeah, for the third question, would a China divorce court seek to make an order against the trust indirectors in the China Trading Company? The answer is no. Unless I think in the rare cases, if the spouse can have enough evidence to show that originally the shares were transferred in an illegal way into the offshore structure, and then it may be a possibility that they can challenge it in the PRC court and trying to claim the shares in the Chinese domestic company. Otherwise, generally speaking, they cannot do that.
Okay, well, that's nice to hear from a trustee's perspective, Frank.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so moving on, we've got these facts again, and another question is, would a Chinese divorce court seek to make an order against foreign property? Mm-hmm. Perhaps we'll cover that question first.
The answer is no. Generally speaking, Chinese courts, they are not willing to make any court rulings over assets outside of China.
Okay,